My guest today has been involved in the music culture from early doors, from dabbling in graffiti to DJing and music production. He was a member of pioneering UK hip-hop group The Brotherhood and has worked with the likes of DJ MK, Roots Maneuver and Ricky Rankin to name a few. Before we get into it, please subscribe to the channel, click on the bell to receive the notifications, like, share and get involved in the comment section below. And now we come to that point. I'd like to welcome to the 521 Sofa Chat, Diablo.
Yes, bruv. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm excellent, mate. It's good to be here.
So if you want to tell us a little bit about where you come from, the things that were surrounding you when you were growing up, were you surrounded by graffiti, hip-hop, or was it a whole different culture?
I grew up in the suburbs of northwest London. Do you know, I'm a middle-class kid. I ain't from the ends, I ain't from the bits. You know, and my early years up until about 11, 12, I was football mad. I was absolutely football mad. And then when I was 10, I got involved in a hit and run accident. And the drunk driver basically mounted an island that me and my brother were on. And we got lucky because he just clipped me and just clipped my knee. You know, so I got a very lucky escape. If he was this much over, you know, me and my brother are fucked. You know, and that kind of, around that time as well, I started going off the football a little bit and hip hop came in. You know, I was in secondary, I just started secondary school and White Lines was on top of the pops. And seeing Grandmaster Flash, I wanted to be a DJ from that moment on. Melly Mel's rhyming, you know, it's like we said, you know, a song about cocaine drew a whole load of school kids in. And we didn't know what they're talking about. Like the Buffalo Girls video, that as well. You know, and so, yeah, hip-hop took a hold. I remember going to school the next day, and my friend Warren, big up Warren, he had a copy of Electro 1 on tape. So he's like, oh, if you like this, check this out. And I was hooked from that moment on. You know, I think that weekend, whatever pocket money I had, I went out and bought the Grandmaster Flash album, I bought Electro 1. You know, this is the 80s, man. You got, you know, yes, at school, you got the New Romantics, you got a few mods who are left over from the Quadrophenia days. You know, there's Soul Boys. You know, there was a handful of little hip-hop heads, you know, so. But, yeah, that was the start of my teen years, and my teen years were, you know, they were a world of adventure, discovery, and hip-hop.
Talking of adventure, I know we've been speaking recently, and you mentioned something about a little running in that you had with a certain somebody. Do you want to mention his name? But don't tell the story, we'll come back to this.
What, Braintax? Yeah, it's a minor.
How involved were you with graffiti?
I used to get school bus home, and we used to put our little tags, you know, on the back of the seats. And we had just felts. And there's a guy who's sitting there, he's quite a few years older than us, and we always used to see this guy, and he saw us, and he's like, oh, you're doing that? He's like, watch this. And he pulled out a torch pen, massive, thick pen, and he blammed up the window, T-I-L-T, tilt. He's one of the foundation graphite. We didn't even know. I knew him by his real name. And so that was like, wow, I've met a graffiti art. You know, it's like, this is amazing. And that I think was 86. And that was the first year that I went to my first hip-hop jam. I went to UK Fresh 86. And you know, the elements, the graffiti, the breaking.
What was the highlight for you at that? Because I have to be honest, I couldn't afford to go.
DJ Cheese, Coast to Coast was smashing it at the time. And yeah, it was, you know. And that was it. And gradually towards the end of 86, the sound of hip-hop's changing. You know, Eric B and Rakim had changed the game. Oh, you know, Eric B for president changed the game. It's a different, you know, BDP, criminal minded.
You know, a lot of people say that, but they don't really give a description of why they changed the game. So what was happening before?
You had all the kind of shouty rappers.
Right.
You know, loud, Melly Mel on the mic, a loud voice. You know, Rakim was smooth, more laid back, like, you know, thinking of a master plan. You know, that, you know, it was all calm.
Okay, so was it just the texture or was it the skill?
Both, it was everything. You know, and then you had, you know, BDP, KRS-One had a bit more of a harder voice. You know, Rakim was on the laid back flow. KRS was a bit more in your face kind of thing. The styles had changed. Kane was coming through. You know, it was in 87 really. So it was just like the back end of 86 into 87, I was getting into the graffiti, and yeah, it was the start of my hip hop journey, because the graffiti was free. You know, if you were a DJ, equipment costs money. It's expensive business. If you're an MC, you need a mic, but you didn't have to worry because your DJ would normally have them. If you could break dance, that didn't cost anything. Graffiti didn't cost anything because you steal the pens, you steal the paint, you don't pay for your train fare because you can jump in anywhere you want. And it was a great activity when you didn't have any money.
Yeah.
So, 14, 15, 16, we're walking the train lines. I loved walking the train lines.
To you and to anyone who's involved in graph and in the hip hop culture, they will understand what that means. But can you give a better description to explain to anyone who doesn't?
It means illegally trespassing onto the train lines and writing your name on walls or wherever you saw fit. I didn't get a buzz out of putting my name. Right, I enjoyed doing the buses, but I didn't really I got more of a buzz out of actually being on there and walking along the lines and actually writing my name on a bridge or whatever. That did nothing for me. I wasn't the best artist. I couldn't do a burn. I can barely draw a matchstick man. Do you know what I mean? But I had a little tag and I had a little throw up, and I kind of ran with that. But we weren't really toys because we had style. All the boys. Everyone had a little bit of style to them. But we weren't really up. I ain't going to claim to be some all-city king or whatever. I did it a little bit. I was more a witness to the culture.
Okay.
That was more to the point. And we slowly started getting accepted. As this is going, as the Brotherhood.
Accepted by who?
The graffiti guys, who are also part of the hip-hop scene. But we never wrote Brotherhood on the wall. We never, some of the guys said, why aren't you putting Brotherhood up? And we're like, no, that's a music thing, that's separate.
What year was this? Because to a lot of people, they don't really know about Brotherhood till much later.
This is mid-'87.
Okay, so Brotherhood existed from what year?
Brotherhood started in '84.
Okay, and what was behind Brotherhood at the time?
Brotherhood was the brainchild of Shylock. I call him Lawrence, he's one of my best friends from those times, But Shylock, it was Shylock's baby. And he wanted it as a collective, DJs, MCs, beatboxers, whatever, just a collective of b-boys. So that was kicking off, but it was a group of friends who had dreams. We all wanted to make music. That was our dream, but we were heavily involved in the graffiti culture. Like I said, I don't consider myself a writer. I'm not, but it's funny because I was talking to PIC, who's a legend.
Yeah, of course.
Big up P. Big up, but the whole of We Rock Hard, man. They were the first crew I started seeing WRH on the walls everywhere. Robbo, rest in peace. Doze, Chocky, Prime. The legends. World Domination, Drax. Drax was everywhere. Everywhere. Drax and Robbo, rest in peace. Robbo was a don. Our soundtrack to that era, our soundtrack was Out Being Rakim, Public Enemy, BDP, Kane. That was our soundtrack, but our heroes were these guys writing the lines.
At the time we were doing all these things, I don't think none of us realised how we would influence the world. And look what's happened like 30, 40 years later.
It's crazy. And, some of them have gone on to doing amazing things. So the graph game really took hold 87. But also, from 87 to like 89, 90, this is the robbery days. The violence is out of control. It's like, sometimes we're in Northwest London, one of the biggest and most dangerous graffiti crews of all time. It is not far from us. And you see them on the line, you might get a pass, you might not. Do you know what I mean? It might not be your lucky day today. So, it was scary times, man.
Yeah, I remember those days, especially when we used to go to like Hammersmith Palais and stuff, to the events, like when the Run DMC tours were in.
All those parties got turned out.
All of them.
All of them.
I remember everybody getting robbed at the queues.
Cool J got his chain snatched by yeah. We'll keep quiet about it.
Talking of the graffiti side of things, there was a massive train jam as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Around this time, Brotherhood had recorded 2 tracks, first 2 demos in Noisegate Studio. The original Brotherhood lineup was Shylock, DJ Crystal, who was called Pump Action back then, DJ Quartz, and DJ Hasty, who was Aston. And Aston went on to become Blap's Posse and the Freestylers.
I thought there was one more, 5.
Yeah, there was another MC called Sir Yes.
Okay.
And Sir Yes and Shylock were on the mic and the other guys were on the production.
Okay.
But Aston was a studio engineer So he engineered the track at Noisegate Studios. So we had these demos, and I think it was Ariane from World Domination. I think he was friendly with Crystal, or he was friendly with my mate Ollie. And they brought us in and said, do you want to come to this train jam? You know, World Domination and Bash Street Kids, they put on these train jams. And that was like, you know, whoa, yeah. You know, we were fans, man. You know, we wanted to go, just to bear witness. So 12 of us went up to Covent Garden, and you finally get to meet Drax, Robbo. And Robbo's a giant of a man. It's just like, wow, look at sight. You know, these are the kings, man. PIC and you know, the Untouchables coming through, mob-handed, with like, you know, they're like a pride of lions. You know, it's just like amazing to see. So we kind of, a few of us got separated. A couple of the guys got robbed. You know, one of my man got his jacket taken and everything. He got drapes. Do you know what I mean? So a few of them went home. So already we're down from 12 to I think there's 6 of us. So we go onto this train. It's all cool. Now we're in the train. It's basically a party on the train. Everyone's graffitiing. There's b-boys dancing. People are smoking, drinking. I'm not a participant. I didn't write I'm a witness. I'm like this. I was so in awe that I'm just watching, thinking this is the most hip hop thing I've ever been involved in. This is great. And as the train goes on, there's a commotion in the next carriage. Something's going on in there. You know, and certain guys were in there doing their thing, you know, which wasn't pleasant for other people in there. Something happened. Train pulls up at the next station. Everyone gets out, and like you're talking a couple of hundred people. Like the train's basically been stopped. You know, someone's pulled the emergency, so it's stopped at the next station. Everyone's come out like, what the fuck's going on here? You know, this is and the other. And then I see all these guys holding their eyes, and they've been gassed. Someone's got CS gas out. They've all been gassed, and they're crying and this and the other. And there's one dude at the end of the train. He must have been 15 foot away from me, and one dude just came up and boxed him, and he went flying. And next thing, they rushed him. It's like the Warriors, man. You know it was a bad beating, bad beating. And I didn't know this, but apparently they threw him onto the train lines afterwards. We were waiting for the next train along to jump onto the next train, and literally as that train pulled in, there's police running down the stairs. It was the most police I've ever seen in my life, apart from at a football match. And they're coming down and they're trying to grab everyone. And me and my man, we jumped on the train. It was my mate Ollie. And we jumped on the train and we got the fuck out of there. We actually ended up with one of the Untouchables. And he took us into town. And the funny story, he's like, come on lads, I'll buy you an ice cream. I was like, we were like, really? All right, cool. You know, we're still a bit naive or whatever. We're like, oh, cool. So we end up in Leicester Square. And we walk into this ice cream parlour, and he's like, oh, what do you want? You know, he orders the ice cream. There's 3 ice creams there. The dude grabs the 3 ice creams and jets. And he's left us hanging there like 2 mugs. So we jet. And I found out later, DJ Crystal got nicked because he took someone to the hospital. And at the hospital, they realised with the gas, you know, someone's committed an assault or whatever. You know, and they busted everyone who went to the hospital. And Crystal said the cells were so full up that he ended up beatboxing in the cells because he's a wicked beatboxer, and he ended up beatboxing in the cells, and they had an MC cypher in the cells until they all got let out. So yeah, you know, the violence was completely out of hand by '88, and it's funny because that's the start of the acid house and the summer of love and everything, and you had, you know, a lot of people got drawn away from the hip hop scene and went into the raving. Same with the dancehall, they got drawn away, started getting into the raving. I got taken to my first rave when I was 15. And it was an illegal rave in a warehouse, and it was behind Willesden Green bus garage. And it scared the life out of me, because I'm young, I'm seeing these guys, they're all on ecstasy or whatever. There's zombies in there. You know, it reminded me of the Night of the Living Bassheads. It was like Night of the Living Bassheads video meets Thriller. Yeah. You know, so I was like, ooh, you know, I don't like this. This is too much for me. Yeah. But, you know, we started going raving at that time. Aston was putting on a few jams in the West End, and we used to go Busby's on a Sunday night. That was our spot. It was opposite Astoria. And I think it was like an over-16s night on a Sunday, and they'd play all the jams.
That was also a time when there was no, I mean, the police weren't really aware what was going on in the undergrounds, for example. So you lot could have those jams and get away with it because there was no CCTV alert.
The police, after Ray's, rest in peace, died, the BTP came down on the Graff Writers hard. You know, they were after, man. So we had, I can only remember one time we got chased walking the lines, and the BTP chased us all the way. We climbed over a fence somewhere in Edgewell, Burnt Oak, and we were gone. You weren't catching me back then. So the violence was spiralling out of control, and I got my first set of decks in 88, end of 88, and they weren't even Technics. They were Technics SB22s, do you remember them?
I don't.
They went to plus and minus 6 on the pitch control.
Oh, right. So I didn't know them by name, but I know which ones you mean.
They went
now.
plus and minus 6 on the pitch controls.
Yeah.
We used to use plastic bags. Remember the old plastic bag trick for the DJs? Rather than having slip mats. So we used to cut out carrier bags as our slip mats.
Okay.
So I started DJing then, and a few months later, beginning of 89, I started driving. As soon as I had the car, the trains were a myth. You know what I mean? I was in the ride, and I was spending a lot. I was buying a lot of tunes. Started buying a lot of tunes there. A lot of the Brotherhood breaks from the first album, they came from Pop Beat in Camden. Bernard, rest in peace, Bernard. He had the shop. I wouldn't really go groove too much, and then you go 4-Star General afterwards. You might get a Red Alert tape or something like that. Get yourself a 2-finger ring. I used to go to. My parents moved further out to Harrow. And Harrow's got a big graffiti scene, hip hop scene. They even got a writer's bench in Harrow. I don't know where it is, but I started going down there a lot more because it was kind of away from the robbery side of things. I was buying tunes in a place called R&D Records, which was owned by John Jules from Kiss FM. So I go there now, buy my imports from there. And eventually you're building up your selection. I was always into, hip hop was the main thing. And you're buying breaks and listening to a lot of reggae on the side. The reggae was there from early, from Admiral Bailey, Josie Wales, the Slang Tang era. So it was always there, and we appreciated it, but it wasn't at the forefront because we were full on hip hop.
And that leads on nicely to the Brotherhood. So tell us a little bit about the beginning of Brotherhood.
89. So the guys did the initial demos, and then it kind of whizzled down. A few people went to university. 89 was a big year for me because I got busted twice, and the second time I got busted, I ended up with a suspended sentence. And I was like, right, I'm going to stop fucking around because I ain't going to Felton. I ain't going there. Do you know what I mean? I know people who got nicked for graffiti and ended up doing 6 months in Felton. And what I got caught for, I'm lucky to get it suspended. Do you know what I mean? So, at that point, I thought, right, I'm going full on into the music. So we'd go to Noisegate, we'd record a few demos at Noisegate. We went to G Street. We took the demos to G Street. And G Street were like, you're wicked, but you're too young. Come back when you're 18, 19 and not when you're 15, 16. All right, cool. So, like I said, the crew eventually whittled down and it became me, Shylock, DJ Crystal, and Quartz was still around a little bit, but he went to university. Once he went to university, he weren't in it too tough. And me and Shylock found Monroe Studios. And Monroe Studios wasn't in Holloway Road then, it was in Barnet. And they had a sampler. We were looking for a studio with a sampler. And me and Shylock recorded 2 demos. And they were good. I'm not blowing my own trumpet here, but yeah, we've got something here. So we took them to Trevor Jackson because Trevor was local. He worked in the local record shop. He was a designer. He designed for the Champion record sleeve, a lot of record sleeves for G Street. He designed a lot of that stuff. And Trevor was like, get back in the studio and give me an EP or a 12 that I can put out.
So Noisegate was before Monroe.
Noisegate and G Street were before Monroe. And we get to Monroe, and our engineer was a guy called Pete Parsons. He became big on the drum and bass scene as the Voyager. He became, in the 90s, he became known as the Voyager. And we basically tell Pete our ideas. He'd pump them into the sampler and everything, and we'd eventually piece together the songs.
Okay.
Lawrence would go in and spit the verses. So it was cool. We were in Monroe Studios in Barnet, had an upstairs and a downstairs. And downstairs, while we were recording our demos in the first EP, Caveman were downstairs, in the studio downstairs, recording Positive Reaction. While Robbie, the principal's mixing down the album, MCM's sitting with us. M basically co-hosted with Westwood a few times on Westwood's show.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
And M used to big us up there. Even before we had a record, he'd always shout out the Brotherhood. So the Brotherhood name's getting out there without a single being out. So eventually we go back to Trevor. we got a product. Now, what happened around that time, Lawrence wanted another hype man or something in, so he brought in this guy called the Pioneer. But the Pioneer he didn't really do much. He looked good. Do you know what I mean? He had the MCM gear, the triple goose. Do you know what I mean? He looked the part, but he never done nothing as the band. He was just there as a fashion, Shylock used to take him out, so he'd pose next to him, and they looked good together. Do you know what I mean? And Crystal was getting full on into the rave hardcore scene, and he's DJing, he's doing mixtape, he's not doing hip hop mixtapes, he's doing hardcore tape mixes, and he's starting to get a name for himself, and he's starting to make tunes. So by the time the EP's dropped, Daniel Crystal's already on his path. So you've lost your DJ. I didn't want to be the DJ. I wanted to produce. I like DJing in clubs. I did my first gig in '90 at Dingwall's on a club set, and it was the night England played Germany, the Gazetteers. They made me stop the music to show the penalty shootout. Once England lost the shootout, the dance was done. Germany, pack up your records, we're going home. It's a wrap. Trevor had offices in Clerkenwell at the time, and he was like, I want to start a hip hop label and call it Bite It Records. And the first single, I remember we were stamping, all the records up in his office. He took a load to the distributors, and me and Shylock drove round to the record shops on a sale or return thing. Remember, you used to have the little red, you write out. See, I was in the T-shirt game. Yeah. I earned my money. God bless my uncle, Mr. Ivan Bridge. He was like a second father to me. And he had a stall in Wembley selling T-shirts. And we sold T-shirts everywhere. We'd go to the football matches, and it was an earner. I went to the poll tax riots. We got chased out the poll tax riots by a load of anarchists. I got T-shirts on either shoulder, cash falling out my pockets, and we'd come around this corner and there's like a mob.
So why'd you get chased?
Because they thought we were capitalists. We're selling anti-Thatcher T-shirts, and they're like, why are you earning money on this? This is a serious thing. They chased us. So we put out the first EP, and then we wanted to do a remix, 12-inch, which was Descendants and Driving. And that's when Trevor got more involved on the production side of that. And he kind of had a lot more input. And we put it out, we did well. We ended up, Kiss FM, Westwood playing it. We were on our way. But we lost Crystal as our DJ, because he's off on the hardcore scene. And I got to big up Crystal to the max, because a couple of years before that, I got held up and robbed. And they took my turntables, they took a chunk of my records, mixer, the works. I got jacked properly. And I had these shitbox little decks, and when Crystal had his first record, he bought a brand new set of Technics from what he earned, and he gave me his old Technics. He's like, there you go, bruv, you use them. And, God bless him. I'm back in the game, do you know what I mean? And records out, it's all love. We're meeting more and more people in the hip-hop community. Jay Blast, the kill from Scientists of Sound. Jay Blast had the third release on Bite It, which was a diss on PM Dawn. It's called, I can't remember what it's called, but it was a diss on PM Dawn. And Jay would introduce us to loads of people in the hip-hop scene. We met a lot of people through him. And we said, he introduced us to DJ Cesare, the Stereo MC's DJ. Right. And we were like, look, we need a DJ. We need a stage DJ, tour DJ. And he said, speak to Pogo. He introduced us to Pogo. And Pogo's like, I got just the guy for you. My man Dexter. So me and Shylock drove down to Pogo's in Lewisham, Ladywell. Pogo was in Ladywell. We met Dexter and we got on like our house on fire. He's from Holloway, originally, we found out later he was originally from South London, Orpington and whatever, but he's living in Holloway, he's close to us, he's nice on the decks, he's looking for, he was looking for something to get into after doing his stuff with Bushkin and...
Yeah, what D to the K.
D to the K, yeah, sorry. And yeah, it started to fit. Now I realised that I was starting to be a bit of a spare wheel in the game, in the Brotherhood band, when at that time Trevor lived in Kilburn and he had a loft with his studio in. And you go into the loft and he's got all the studios set up, he's got breaks that he never had before and everything, and he's making these mad beats. And when Ways of the Wise and Hit the Funk came out, I knew my time in the group, as a group, not a friendship, but in the group was done.
Okay, so what was your role in the group?
I was doing production, I wrote a few ghost lines for Shylock. Because we used to get together, and my house I had the turntables set up. You could play the music loud. You could drink. You could smoke. You're good. So I had mad ciphers at my house all the time, and we'd work on music there. I had all the breaks, you know, or we go to Shylock's house, and his brother worked for Elektra Records, and his brother, big up Stephen, his brother had a crazy rock collection. He was a rock fan, and he had, you know, just crazy albums, stuff that we'd listen to, all sorts of madness.
So you had access to everything.
Yeah,
really?
we had access to everything, you know, and we actually wrote I Might Smoke a Spliff. I was sitting with Shylock when he wrote I Might Smoke a Spliff and Beats and Rough and Rugged, and he wrote it in his brother's room, and I gave him he took a few lines from what I wrote during that time, and he fitted him into his. That was also Spice's first appearance.
How did Spice get involved?
Lawrence needed someone else with him. You can't be a brotherhood with just two guys. It originally was a plan to be a multicultural group. So now it's looking much better because you got Spice, Dexter, and Shylock. Look, it formed like Voltron, man. You know, it was there. You know, finally, you know, this perfect. This is the lineup. Yeah. You know, and Spice, I didn't really know. I knew Spice from Harrow Skate Park. He was a bad dancer. He was sick. He was nice with the moves on the body popping and the robotics, and he was nice. Yeah, he had a career in dancing before, you know, he was kind of jumped on with Lawrence. So Lawrence, you know, Lawrence brought him in, and it was complete. By this time, you know, I'm a bit peed off with the hip hop scene, UK hip hop scene. Mostly because I felt like I was pushed to one. I wasn't fired because, you know, no one's giving you a P45, but you're kind of just pushed to one side. Plus, I was smoking a lot, and I was listening to a lot of dub reggae.
How much of this was your own doing in terms of you not being involved in the group anymore?
A lot. Trevor had his eye on Trevor was older than us. He had a game plan. He knew what he wanted to do. He had a business plan. He was organised. I'm going this way. Whereas we're all over the show. We're having a laugh. You know what we're like, man. We're just, you know, it wasn't so much us being violent or anything like that. It was just wild, silly stuff. We used to go egging. Do you remember the Beastie Boys record? Yeah. So we wouldn't egg old people or anyone, you know. We drive round the pubs and we wait and see the hardest looking lunatic that you could find, and he's the one who's getting it. And, you know, you wind down the window, we used to have an A to Z, and you say, "Excuse me, mate, can you tell me where?" And just bang in his face. And he'd go mad and he'd chase after you. If you slip the clutch and you stall the car, you're in trouble. Do you know what I mean? We're doing wild shit like that. Coming home from a dance and the milkman's driving along, used to hang out the window. My man used to hang out the window and smash all the milk bottles with a little like a rounders club. Just, you know, violence, but not to people. Do you know what I mean? Just stupid shit. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, teenage crap. Do you know what I mean? 92, I was heavily into reggae and dancehall, and I kind of moved away from Brotherhood. They're still my friends, but I didn't go to a lot of hip hop dances. I used to go jar shaka like religion. I studied shaka. It was like going to school. I used to perch up there and watch him all night long, watch what tunes he played, and eventually I got good at it. And I was still doing hip hop mixtapes, and that's how I met MK. I was buying mixtapes from. I bought mixtapes from Tape Kings. There's that ad in the back of Hip Hop Connection, and there was a Tape Kings ad, and I found out it wasn't the New York one. It's some guy from up north. So I send him an order, and the first order he sends me through, it's all cool. Some of the tapes are like second and third generation copies. They're a bit, you know, and then I give him another order, a much bigger order, and he skanked me. He didn't send the tapes, nothing. So I see another ad in the back of Hip Hop Connection for DJ MK. And I heard him on Westwood, and Westwood introduced him as DJ MK from Wembley. So I thought, all right, cool, this guy's from the Manor. If he rips me off, we can find him. Because, you know, we're finding, you know, it's no, you know, God bless you, Mark. There's a lot, you know, but, you know, and then talking to M on the phone, we became friends. Do you know, I didn't realise 30 years later we'd be godfather to some of my children. It started off as MK and Diablo, and it became Mark and Jason. It became a real, you know, as friends, you know, all of us. I don't call Shylock by his real name. I don't call Crystal as Crystal. You know, it's Daniel and Lawrence. You know, it's on first name basis. So I ended up buying a shitload of mixtapes off MK. And I met this guy. Someone told me he was a member of the Spanglers Posse. He's a Jamaican guy, and he wanted hip hop tapes, and I wanted dancehall tapes. So we ended up swapping, and he gave me this Metromedia tape. It was a big sound system in Jamaica, Metromedia, and the selector Sky Juice. And after I heard that, I wanted to be Sky Juice. That was it. That was it for me. So I was on that road already. But the problem I had during that time is that the hip hop guys thought I was a reggae DJ, and the reggae guys thought I was a hip hop DJ. So I'm kind of trapped in the middle. Do you know what I mean?
So how do you find a way out to where you're going?
I didn't. I just carried on doing my thing.
Okay.
I do. You know, I want to play reggae. I want to play dancehall. I'm just going to do my thing. So at the same time, Lawrence would go to Spice's house every day. They wrote Elementals at Spice's house, you know, and they just wrote it. They wrote it with all the stuff that was going on around the crew. You know, we had people with drug problems, you know, with mental health issues through the drug problems. We had guys who were wilding out, you know, in and out of prison, you know, some live wires, you know. So that album, Clunk Click, you know, Clunk Click's a reality thing. You know, Clunk Click is the sound of the cell. Come visit we where we dwell. You know, and Spice was, when Spice said, we ain't got no time, we never felt no remorse. We're chopping people up and we bag them in a cardboard box. You know, there's the shit that was going on around us. One Shot, the Lawrence's first verse, Shylock's first verse on One Shot was about a mate of his who grew up with him. You know, he ended up getting banged up for a lot of coke. It's a true story. You listen to the lyrics, it's a true story. So Elementals was the reality of that. But I was off on the mixtape game by then. They're my mates. I'm going to all the shows. You know, I'm going to Subterranean. But I'm rolling out with MK2. You know, we're rolling out all the time. But we never saw Shylock and Spice for ages because they're Spice's writing the album, so they're missing. Crystal's got his deal. You know, he's one of my best friends. He's off doing his thing. I ended up rolling out with MK a lot. I went to Paris with MK. I went to a few places. I'm just kind of bopping along with him. I was earning money. I've always been in the car trade anyway for young, because I've always had something to fall back on. And just enjoying life.
What happened with Braintax?
He was living with MK for a minute, and I went round to Mark's, and I'd probably been out with the roadmen, North West London road guys doing their things or whatever. So I'm hype. I'm a little aggy. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's got, you know, it's like you got ego back then. You know, you're large, and I walk in there and there's this guy and he's running his mouth to me. And I'm like, what, you know, who are you? You know, who the fuck are you talking to me like that? You know, and he's carrying on and carrying on. And the more he's talking, the more I'm thinking, I'm going to put you in the boot of my car, mate. You know, you're going in the boot. And I'm thinking what maniac I can call. Who's going to cause him the most distress? Who do I know who's going to make this guy's life a nightmare for the next few hours? MK clocked the situation. And he's like, come on, Jay, let's go out to the shops. He kind of said, like, you know, I've just moved in with him, leave it. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, all right, cool. But yeah, it came close. I could have done the UK hip-hop scene a favour then. I should have done the hip-hop UK scene. Take him out to Hertfordshire and feed him to the fucking squirrels.
Do you believe all that stuff about what's going on with him?
Of course. Because he's a fucking horrible little shitbag. You know, I feel no way about saying that. You know, he ripped people off. He ripped friends of mine off. You know, fuck that guy. You know? And you're coming to North West London, you're coming to Brotherhood home turf, and you're running your gob to me. Do you know, bro, it's a wrap for you. So you keep running your mouth, yeah, see what happens. It was one of those ones. So eventually it calmed down. I think next time I went round or whatever, he gave me a copy of his record. I didn't realise Super T was on that record.
Oh, yeah.
Because I met Super T the same time I met MK. And I literally left the house and I flung the record out on the Edgware Road. I threw it out my car. Oh, fucking guy, I don't want your record. So I just flung the record out. And then like Super T told me, he's like, oh, I'm on that. I was like, sorry, bro, I can't listen to that dude on there with you. But yeah, no, it was cool times. You know, we lived in Subterranea. You know, Brotherhood are doing show after show with all the big US acts. Subterranea, Astoria. There's always big jams at Astoria. A lot of people were resentful after a while. Like, why are they the support act every show?
Right, see, now
Show.
I thought very different to everyone else, because I was like, I was getting offers to be support acts to a lot of people, and I kept turning them down. And you know, the reason I did that was because I felt that if I keep supporting, I'm always going to be recognized as a support act. I want a headline. I want to build my reputation. And so what's your thoughts about that?
I don't think it was like that for the Brotherhood, because the album's big. You know, in '96 it was Brotherhood and Black Twang. Tony was just coming through with his sound. You know, I think his album dropped just after Brotherhood album dropped. So it was Twang and Brotherhood were '96. Brotherhood won the Mobo. I think it was the first Mobo ever, and won the Mobo. You know, doing MTV tour with Cypress Hill and Group Home and the Jizza, the Roots, Master Race, so many, supporting so many different people. You know,
you got a funny story about you know what I'm talking about.
When you're talking about Malachi from the Group Home.
Yeah.
We were in Amsterdam, and we were sitting out there and we're eating food before the show starts, and Malachi got on the peak of his baseball cap. A bit of lettuce was dangling off, and it was dangling all the way down. There was a big bit of, there was a thin bit of lettuce, and no one had the balls to tell him, "Yo, you know, pull that off." So he walked around with it for ages. We were bawling, we were laughing. But you know, Neil Easterby told me when they went on the first European tour, Group Home, that Malachi turned up with his clothes in dustbin bags to go on tour, and he had to go and buy him luggage.
Oh man.
You know, there's hard times for those boys. Around that time as well, my man Richard, another guy I grew up with, he loved skateboarding. He was connected with Brotherhood because we're all friends. He was like, I want to put on a club in the West End. I'm going to call it the Hop. It's going to be you, MK, and I'm going to bring in someone else. And MK brought in Shorty Bliss. Okay. And that was the first time MK and Shorty were together.
Right, and look at them still together now.
They're still together now doing the radio show on Kiss. But fast forward, the Hop was lovely. The Brotherhood eventually broke up, I think, towards the end of the Hop around 99, something like that. Lawrence quit. He was like, I've had enough. Shylock's like, I'm done with it. I've got a job. That's it. You can't convince me to stay in this game anymore. I've had enough. You know, around this time, I was DJing a fair bit of bashment and R&B. I got around 99, 2000, I got a gig up in Rainforest Cafe in the West End, so I was spinning R&B there on Friday, Saturday night. I had a mate in Amsterdam, so I used to go there and DJ as well. And I'm fed up with the hip hop game. Do you know what I mean? I want to get into. I'm a bit fed up with the R&B, but it's paying money, and you know the girls are cool in the clubs and everything. It's all right, you know. And I'm getting a bit of change from it. And around 2002. I was in Amsterdam, and I was DJing in Amsterdam. I think it was a Friday night, and MK phoned me, and this is the first time we're on international calls now. You know, yeah. And he's like, "Yeah, where you at?" I was like, "I'm in Amsterdam." He's like, "Well, we're in Germany on the tour bus. We're coming to Amsterdam in the morning. Stay, change your flight ticket, and come link us for our show." I was like, "All right, cool." So I linked MK the next day. And I was lucky because where his hotel was, it was a busy lobby, and I literally just walked in front of him. It was like, and I was like, "You all right? Yeah, cool." He goes, "We've lost Ricky Rankin. Ricky's wandered off somewhere." And I was like, "What? Ricky Rankin from Nasty Rockers and Killer Man Taurus Sound System?" He's like, "Yeah, he's working with Rodney." My musical teachers were Papa Face and Redman the Revival King because they worked in Dub Vendor. Okay. So in the 90s, I used to buy my records in Dub Vendor. And on the way back from Ladbroke Grove, I'd stop off at Jetstar in Craven Park Road, Stonebridge. I'd go because I had a DJ account there. So anything I didn't pick up in Dub Vendor, I'd pick up in Jetstar. And MK would bring me the imports from Handspun and Deal Real. So yeah, Papa Face, Redman the Revival King were my initial teachers. Ricky's my musical father. Yeah. Ricky was just, God bless Ricky, man. I love Ricky to the bone. But so we got introduced to that time, but at the same time, I took a break from music. I went travelling. I always wanted to go to the Far East, Southeast Asia. I always wanted to go. So I took a few years. I was done with the hip hop game, completely out of it. And then around 2005, I did a reggae mix, like old school 70s mix, and it ended up on Roots Manoeuvre's tour bus, and they were loving it. It was like the soundtrack to their tour bus. And then Roots Manoeuvre turned around to MK and was like, "Yo, bring Diablo in to DJ for Ricky." At the same time, I can't remember who it was. A friend of mine said, "Do you want to?" There's a internet radio station in Enfield, just started out. It's called Fat Beats, and they want a bashment show. And so I met the guys. They were mad cool. I was like, "Look, can I do bashment for the first hour and old reggae for the second hour?" Yeah, cool. He's like, "Oh, by the way, MC Bushkin from Heartless crew's on before you." He's got Heartless had their own show on there, but Bushkin also had his own personal show. And me and Bush got on like a house on fire instantaneously. It was all love. And Heartless as well. It was just great. So around that time, MK was bringing me in for all the gigs he was doing. And, you know, I'd get slots in some of his nights. So I'm doing all of this, and the Banana Clan sound system set off. And it started off me and Ricky Rankin. We brought in Shawnee T afterwards. But it was very strange, the difference between a Roots Maneuver dance and playing at a Heartless crew team. Because at Roots Maneuver, you'd have all the crusty people. You know what I mean? You'd have all the... Well, he wasn't doing hip-hop shows no more. It's all like these... I'm not talking about an actual Roots Maneuver show. I'm talking about the Banana Clan club nights. Yeah. Right, full of crusty people. Me and Ricky used to sit outside the dances before they started. We used to sit in my Beamer, and we used to smoke a zoo and sound out the crowd. And I just look around at Ricky. Yeah, it's a mouldy arm thing tonight. Do you know what I mean? It's a mouldy arm dance. We're playing to the unwashed tonight. And then the next day, I'm DJing for Heartless, like in the second room, because the main room was mostly garage. I'm playing in like a VIP room. And you're playing to people who are dressed smart, they look good, everyone looks good, the vibe's right. I mean, Heartless got the Benz Panani, bruv. Do you know what I mean? They got the girls, you know, come on, man. It was a strange time. Because I'm going from 1 minute playing like, oh man, you know, don't touch me, bruv, you fucking stink, to partying when it's all love. That carried on for a while. I ended up doing more Banana Clan stuff. And eventually the Banana Clan, me, Ricky and Shawnee T. And God bless Shawnee. Shawnee's an unsung hero. You know, Sean's been around from time. He needs his story to be told.
Oh, definitely.
So when it was me, Shawnee and Ricky, it was a dancehall thing. When it was Roots Maneuver and his management doing a Banana Clan show, it was kind of like left field and these crusty kind of people. But when we went off on our own, it was a dancehall thing. And we carried the flag for a long time.
Something that you mentioned to me a while ago, which is stuck in my head. Something about when you were DJing anything, you were just a DJ.
So when I DJ hip hop, funk, whatever, I just feel like a DJ. When I play the reggae and dancehall, I feel like a fucking freedom fighter.
All right, explain that.
Banana Clan, let me tell you, Banana Clan was the voice of the voiceless, the choice of the choiceless, the poor man's Def Jam. We were like messengers. We're pumping out a message of unity and peace and love. You know, it was just, I felt different. I felt at home. I felt more at home than playing hip hop, and you know, it was like a natural thing. It was organic. You know, so it was different. I loved it. You know, and I'll tell you a funny story. I'm DJing in South London one night at a dance, and me and Ricky shell it down, absolutely smashed the place. And some old rude boy come up to me. He was like in his 50s and 60s, and he's like, "Yo, control this," and he hands me a shotgun shell. I was like, the guy gave me a shotgun shell.
What is he doing with a shotgun
shell?
He's
like, because you shell it down, man. You shell down the dance. So Ricky turned around to me and he said, no, you got to cut the top off, empty out the ball bearings, and you hang on, you use it as a...
you got it?
Yeah, I brought it with me, yeah.
Oh, wow.
You use it as a lighter holder.
Look at that.
Was it 12 bore?
That's mad, isn't it? Wow.
So yeah, Ricky said all the real sound men hold their lighters in a shotgun shell. So he's like, yeah, you're the real deal now. You know, you're a real sound man. The Banana Clan thing, it was sporadic. Yeah. And then MK and Harry Love set up the Funhouse TV. And I've known Harry, you know, MK's my man, obviously. I've known Harry since he was 11 years old. We used to smuggle Harry into the hip hop clubs. You know, I remember the first time Harry was in my car, we were giving him a lift home, and I'm turning around to MK and Shylock, and I'm like, why have we got this fucking kid in the car? You know?
Look at what he's done now.
And look what he's done now. It's the same way you said about Harry Shotter. When I met Harry Shotter, I was just like, oh, another kid.
And Jest.
And Jest as well. But who'd think, you know, Shotter's a beast, man. Yeah. He's fucking smashing.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them. Jest as well. Jest I saw around from, because Jest I think it was from Cricklewood or Kilburn. So he used to be at the ciphers at MK's house a few times. You know, Tommy Evans and people like that. But yeah, they started the Fun House, and they broadcast in their kitchen, in MK's kitchen.
Was anybody cooking while the broadcast was going on?
Yeah, Harry used to behind me cooking.
You're joking?
Yeah.
I was just asking as a joke.
Harry used to cook his dinner, and you know, MK was on tour a lot. He was on tour with Roots Maneuver, and he was on tour with, I think he just started DJing for Dizzy Rascal around that time as well. So Mark was in there, but he was on tour a lot. So I'd cover for him. You know, he used to call me up and say, yo, make sure Harry's on point. Do you know what I mean? Can you take care of the things for me tonight? Because I'm in Australia or wherever he was. So I remember one show I did in there, and Harry loves mixing down Kalashnikov. Him and Kalashnikov are next door mixing down K-Lash's album while I'm doing a show in the kitchen.
That's bad.
So eventually Funhouse got quite big. We got, you know, they got Raekwon up in there. They got Fife Dog up in there to do shows. And then we moved it to Alaska Studios, where Roots Maneuver recorded all his. A lot of people recorded at Alaska.
Was that
Waterloo?
Waterloo. That's
Waterloo,
it.
yeah. From when it went to Alaska, it wasn't the same. It wasn't quite the same because it felt like work. At MK's house, it was a laugh. It was fun. You know, all of a sudden, oh, it's serious, and it's like putting in work. So eventually, due to commitments, Harry bounced, and MK was on tour all the time. We didn't have time to run it, basically, so it kind of just ended. And I was doing less and less Bucana. I moved out to Essex. I had a family. I had kids. I didn't have time for it. I pretty much knocked it on the head at 2015. I did in between 12 and 2015. I was doing a few shows, but not a lot. And then I kind of just whatever done. I'm a family man. I'm living the family life. I moved out to Essex because I was done with Northwest London. And then out the blue, 2018, I get a message from some kid on Instagram. And he's like, I'm running a Mixcloud type site. You know, we want you to do, I love your hip hop shows. And I thought, man, you're digging in the archives. I ain't done a hip hop mix for 5-6 years. And I went down there and I interviewed a few people. And that's how I met Sweet Pea. Because during these interviews, I wanted to interview Bushkin from Heartless Crew. So I went down to the Bush Bash Studios in West London, and Bushkin introduced me to P. And he casually mentions, oh yeah, I just came back from Jamaica a year ago and I've done an album with Bobby Digital. And I'm like, what? Do you want to do a little something with us? So that's where I'm currently at. I'm currently working on a project. I want to do artist mixtapes. I'm done being a club DJ. I'm done with that shit. You know, I've had enough.
Do you feel you've got your rewards?
I've got my, Colt drags me out every barbecue he brings me out of retirement to play at his barbecues. Yeah, big up Colt, Mr. 45, yeah. Colt brings me out to do his thing. And yeah, it's cool. So like, we're getting this mixtape out. And then after that, I'm going to see if I can do another artist. I'd love to do Navigator. I'd love to do Whitey, big up Whitey, the big, artist in this country is great. I'd love to do General Levy, but you know what I mean? It's like, all these guys are busy, so whether it's going to actually happen, who knows? And yeah, that's kind of where we're at now.
You know, a lot of people, as they get older, they look back at their lives and I see a lot of people getting bitter because they haven't achieved what they wanted to achieve. So I'm asking
you... Can't be bitter, man.
Right, so I'm asking you, do you feel you've achieved everything you wanted to, or have you got unfinished business?
I felt that I achieved everything at 17 when I had my first record in my hand. All I wanted to have was a record out. Holding that record in the hand has done it. So as far as I'm concerned, I did what I had to do at 17, 18. You know, the rest was just fun. Just enjoyed life. Like I said, I was working anyway, so I didn't have to worry about financial stuff.
Right.
You know, other people are struggling on the music. But I had something to fall back on. You know, I had a business to fall back on, so it was cool. You know, and I can pick and choose. And I heard Sweet Pea, and the way he sung is an amazing voice. I was like, oh, I've got to do something with this guy.
So it was Sweet Pea that pulled you out of retirement.
Sweet Pea pulled me out, yeah.
Yeah, wicked.
Just as I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Someone else said that
Yeah.
in one of the interviews.
Just as I was out,
it was
they
actually
pulled me
the
back
Fly
in.
Hooligan.
Was it the Fly?
Yeah, he said it.
Yeah, Braids, Braids, you're a fucking don, bruv.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah, the Fly Hooli, that Ben Kingsley album.
Yeah, sick, bro.
Bruv.
And you know, we had him in here doing a performance and
Braids
stuff.
Braids is a fucking beast, man. Hooligan spitting jewels. He's telling you about life. People don't want to hear that in a club. People want to hear the shake your bum tunes and all that kind, you know.
Do you think that'll ever change?
Nah. But you know, I like, you know, there's party tunes for the club, and then when you're in the ride and all that, you listen to the Hooli and them guys. But yeah, Hooli for me is out there. He's number one, and he's a Northwest London guy, so I always got to represent with the hometown.
So we got stuff to look out for with you and Sweet Pea.
Yeah, the Cat in the Hat mixtape soon come, as they say in Jamaica. Soon come. The Cat in the Hat mixtape, because he's the Cat in the Hat.
Your connection with Heartless.
Yeah.
What is your connection with Heartless?
Do you know what? When I saw them, it reminded me of Brotherhood. It reminded of us growing up. It was a group of friends, and they're on a sound system thing. Yeah, never mind that they're garage MCs or whatever people label them. That's a sound system, and they're sick. Every man is sick in that crew, and they're lovely guys. You know, it's like bumping into your long lost musical nephews. You know, it's like that. Everyone, you know, Mo, Fonny, Bush, all of them, man. And they're boys as well. DJ Steady, Smokey, all those kind of, you know, from it spreads out. They're all great guys. Yeah, wicked. And it reminded me a lot of my crew.
Talking of your crew, do you want to explain why really quickly, just a quick one little paragraph, why the crew split up?
Shylock started it. Shylock finished it. That's the bottom line.
So as soon as he said, I've had enough, that was it.
He said, I'm done. Dexter and Spice recorded a few things, but I never heard any of it, but apparently it weren't the same. But I'll tell you one thing, yeah, that second album that they recorded that was there, you know, after they got dropped from Virgin, they had that album done, ready for Virgin to put out. And Virgin never put it out because they had the Spice Girls at that time, and they cleaned out all their acts. Once they saw the money from the Spice Girls, they were like, and Virgin had like Gregory Eyes, they had great artists, they had, you know, great, you know, Massive Attack, you know, all those people, and they dumped them the lot because they saw the money from the Spice Girls. And that second album, you know, there's tracks on there produced by Guru. Tony Touches on that album. You know, if that album dropped, it would have kick-started the UK hip-hop scene a few years earlier than Roots Maneuver and Skinny and all those boys. You know, you and Mark B and, you know, all that early 2000s. It would have kick-started a bit earlier, I think. Okay. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, and everyone's entitled to that.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it. I think I'm joking.
You know, but it's good to have differences. The problem is, you know, in the old days, we were so focused on our own crew that there wasn't that much unity. Because even though you love everyone's records, you know, it's them lot. You know, there was a lot of
egos
you know
and whatever.
Yeah, egos and whatever got in the way.
Any final words?
No, no, I'm gonna know. You know, look out for the Sweet Pea Project, Bush Bash Records. You know, they're doing big things. You know, independent. They're following your path on the independence, finding young artists, and you know, you got to love them guys for that. You got to love Bushkin for doing that. You know, he's brought P out and everything. You know, I'm supporting them to the fullest, man. They got my, you know, they got my back. I got their back.
Excellent.
You know, even though I might not input stuff in, I'm fully supportive, bro. Absolute pleasure.
Yo, listen, you guys, if you want to find out more about Diablo, please follow him on all his connection pages linked in the description below. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, click the bell to receive the notifications, like, share, and get involved in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and Diablo, bro, thanks again.
Thank you, sir.
All right, and yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to Sweet Pea in a minute.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to that as well.